What if I told you that Caitlin Clark, the star who put the WNBA on the map, is about to walk away from it all? Just hours ago, social media exploded with rumors that the Indiana Fever sensation might be packing her bags for Europe, leaving behind a league she single-handedly turned into a cultural phenomenon. At just 22 years old, wearing her iconic number 22 jersey, Clark isn't just a player, she's a force that's changed the game. She's filled arenas, skyrocketed TV ratings to millions, and brought in sponsors who never even glanced at women's basketball before. But something happened, something so big it might have pushed her to make a decision no one saw coming. Was it the pressure of being the face of an entire league, a clash with her teammates, or something far more personal that drove her to the edge? Stick with us, because the truth behind this rumor is more shocking than you think, and it's going to leave you speechless. Let quote in cut to the chase. The rumors about Caitlin Clark leaving the WNBA aren't new, but in the last few weeks of 2025, they've taken on a life of their own. It all started with a viral tweet claiming Clark was fed up with the WNBA and planning to sign with a team in Europe. Fans went wild, sports pages speculated non-stop, and even analysts started debating whether the league could survive without its biggest star. But here's the truth. According to a recent report from USASportsPulse, Clark has no plans to abandon the Indiana Fever. Her contract, which ties her to the franchise through at least 2028, is still in place, and she's said in interviews that she's committed to her team and to bringing a championship to Indiana. But these rumors didn't come out of nowhere. There's something in the air, a tension that's been building since Clark entered the league in 2024. Between a salary system that doesn't reflect her impact, relentless physical play on the court, and media pressure that never lets up, Clark is facing challenges that would test anyone. And while she's not leaving, the reasons behind these speculations are a story worth telling. So what's really going on? Keep watching, because this is just the beginning. Picture being Caitlin Clark for a second. You're not just a basketball player, you're the beating heart of an entire league. Since the Indiana Fever selected her as the #1 draft pick in 2024, Clark has been more than a rookie. In her first season, she averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game, numbers that sound like they belong to a seasoned veteran. But it's not just what she does on the court. Clark dragged the Fever to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, ending a 7-year drought that had left the team in the shadows. Arenas that used to be half empty are now packed, with Gainbridge Fieldhouse drawing thousands of fans every game. Ticket sales didn't just grow, they skyrocketed by 400%. Clark's games pull in TV audiences of over 2 million viewers, a number the WNBA hadn't seen in decades. And sponsors who used to pass on women's basketball are now lining up to get a piece of her name. Clothing brands, tech companies, even energy drinks, all want a slice of Clark's magic. In less than a year, she turned women's basketball into a cultural event, something people don't just watch but live. But being the center of this revolution isn't a walk in the park. Every step she takes is under a microscope. Every missed shot is a headline. Every word she says becomes a story. And with all that pressure, not everyone in the league welcomed her with open arms. Something was about to break, and it wasn't going to be pretty. It's no secret that Clark's meteoric rise has caused some friction. When you come into a league and change it overnight, not everyone's going to clap for you. Before she even played her first professional game, a legend like Taurasi issued a warning. She said the leap from college to the WNBA would be a shock for Clark, that she'd face grown women who aren't impressed by college records. Her words weren't just advice, they sounded like a challenge. Then came Sheryl Swoopes, another iconic figure, who questioned Clark's NCAA records, saying they weren't entirely valid because the rules were different in her era. And Aja Wilson, one of the league's best players, went further. In an interview, she suggested that Clark's popularity has a lot to do with her race in a league where most players are African American. That comment sparked a debate that's still raging, with some accusing Wilson of resentment and others defending her right to point out racial dynamics in the sport. Clark, always diplomatic, said she just wants respect for all players, but there's no doubt those words left a mark. Fans started speculating. Are the veterans jealous of Clark? Are they trying to hold back the new star? The tension didn't stop at words, because on the court, things got a lot more intense. If you've watched Caitlin Clark play, you know she doesn't get a moment's peace. From her debut, she's been targeted with physical play that sometimes crosses the line. In June 2024, Chennedy Carter of the Chicago Sky shoved her to the ground so hard the incident went viral. The play only drew a common foul, and the WNBA took days to issue Carter a minor fine. Clark's fans exploded, accusing the league of failing to protect its biggest star, but it wasn't a one-off. In 2025, during a game against the Connecticut Sun, Marina Mabrey knocked Clark down with an elbow that left viewers stunned. Once again, the refs barely reacted, and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert came out saying physical play is part of basketball. Clark, ever the professional, downplayed the incidents, saying, "It's just basketball, I'm here to compete." But the injuries started piling up. Quad issues, a groin problem, and by 2025, Clark had missed 14 of the Fever's 27 games. Every hit, every fall, was a reminder that the league relies on her to fill arenas, but doesn't always seem willing to protect her. And while fans screamed for justice, another blow came, one that wasn't physical but hurt even more. The 2024 Olympics were a turning point. Caitlin Clark, at the peak of her popularity, was left off the U.S. team, a decision that sparked a firestorm of controversy. Coach Cheryl Reeve, who also coaches the Minnesota Lynx, was pointed to as the one responsible. Some, like journalist Christine Brennan, accused Reeve of unprofessional behavior, saying her public criticism of the WNBA for focusing too much on Clark was a sign of personal bias. Reeve defended herself, insisting her comments were about promoting the entire league, not just one player, but the damage was done. Figures like LeBron James and Charles Barkley came to Clark's defense, saying her exclusion was a massive mistake, especially when she was the reason millions were tuning into the WNBA. Clark handled it with class, saying she'd used the rejection as motivation, but privately, she admitted it stung. It wasn't just about pride, it was a sign that even as the league's biggest star, she didn't always have a seat at the table. And while fans debated whether it was a personal snub or a strategic choice, another issue was brewing, one that came from her own supporters. Clark's fans are a legion, but sometimes they're her worst enemy. After the Chennedy Carter incident in 2024, social media turned into a battlefield. Clark's followers flooded Carter's accounts with hate, some so extreme that Carter was harassed at her hotel. The situation spiraled out of control, and Clark had to step in to calm things down, asking her fans to focus on the game, not the drama. But the damage was done. Players like Aaliyah Boston, Clark's teammate on the Fever, spoke about having to log off social media to avoid the toxicity. Rumors of locker room tension started swirling. Some teammates felt the attention on Clark overshadowed the rest of the team. Boston, a rising star herself, said in an interview that she sometimes felt like the other player, despite her own accomplishments. Clark, caught in the middle, tried to keep the peace, organizing team dinners, and being the first to cheer her teammates' successes. But it wasn't easy. Being the face of the franchise meant being a magnet for controversy, even when it wasn't her fault. And while she dealt with these tensions, another problem, much deeper, was starting to take shape. The elephant in the room. Caitlin Clark generates millions for the WNBA, but the league doesn't pay her like it. Her max salary, around $250,000 a year, is a fraction of what her economic impact represents. Ticket sales, TV deals, sponsorships, all skyrocketed because of her. But her rookie contract, with team options and restricted free agency, keeps her tied to the Fever with no room to negotiate for what she's really worth. In other leagues, like the NBA, a star of her caliber would be earning tens of millions. In the WNBA, the rules set long before Clark arrived aren't designed for a player who changes the economics of an entire sport. And it's not just the money, it's the lack of control. Clark can't force a trade, can't renegotiate her deal, can't explore other options without breaking everything. Meanwhile, outside the league, the opportunities are massive. In Europe, leagues like the EuroLeague offer salaries that dwarf the WNBA's max, along with perks like housing and cushier travel. Australia's WNBA is also emerging as an option, with competitive contracts and a season that doesn't conflict with the WNBA. Clark knows her brand transcends the league. With millions of social media followers, she could launch her own projects, collaborate directly with brands, or even step into businesses outside of sports, like tech or media. And with every new contract, the question grows louder: why stay in a system that doesn't value you as you deserve? But let's back up and talk about how we got here. When Clark arrived in the WNBA in 2024, she didn't just bring incredible talent. She brought attention the league hadn't seen in decades. Before her, the WNBA was a niche sport, struggling to capture mainstream attention. Clark changed that in months. Fever games became must-watch events, with packed arenas and record-breaking TV ratings. In a single game against the New York Liberty, in 2024, over 2.5 million people tuned in, a number that would have been unthinkable years ago. Jerseys with her number 22 sold out in hours, and brands started fighting to partner with her. Nike, Gatorade, even tech companies wanted her face on their campaigns. But this rise came at a cost. Every move she made was scrutinized, every decision a news story. If she missed a clutch shot, headlines called it a disappointment. If she shined, she was the savior of basketball. There was no middle ground, and while the media built her up, they also put her in an impossible position: be perfect all the time. That pressure didn't stay in the headlines. On the court, Clark faced a physical challenge few anticipated. Opposing players didn't just want to beat her, they wanted to make a point. Every game was a battle, with defenders marking her tightly, using their bodies to slow her down, and sometimes crossing the line. The Kennedy Carter incident was just the start. In a game against the Seattle Storm in 2024, Clark took an elbow that left her on the floor, and though she got up quickly, the video went viral. Fans demanded penalties, but the league stood firm. It's part of the game. In 2025, things didn't get better. During a game against the Connecticut Sun, Marina Mabrey sent her crashing with a move many called unnecessary. Clark, as always, got up and kept playing, but the injuries started to mount. A quad issue sidelined her for 5 games in May 2025. Then a groin problem forced her to miss another 9. Each absence was a reminder of how much the league depended on her, but also how little it seemed to protect her. Fans started asking, is the WNBA letting its biggest star burn out? And then there's the money issue, which we can't ignore. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player, she's a walking business. The sponsorships she's brought in have changed the WNBA's economy. Before her, sponsorship deals were modest, focused on local brands or sports-specific companies. With Clark, things shifted. Global companies started investing in the league, seeing her as a gateway to millions of new fans. A single deal with an energy drink brand in 2024 generated more revenue for the Fever than their entire previous season. But while the league and teams reaped the benefits, Clark was still earning a salary that didn't reflect her impact. $250,000 a year might sound decent, but when you're generating tens of millions in revenue, it's a drop in the bucket. And it's not just the salary. Her rookie contract includes clauses that limit her freedom. Team options give the Fever total control over her future until 2028. Restricted free agency means she can't negotiate with other teams without hurdles. In the NBA, a star of her caliber would have options: trades, renegotiations, freedom to seek the best deal. In the WNBA, those doors are locked. And for a player like Clark, that's more than frustrating. It's a sign the system isn't ready for someone like her. Outside the WNBA, the world is a different place. In Europe, women's basketball leagues are a real temptation. Teams in Turkey, Russia, and Spain offer salaries that double or triple the WNBA's max, along with perks like luxury apartments and private flights. The EuroLeague, for example, has a reputation for treating its players like royalty, with packed arenas and less media pressure. In Australia, the WNBL is growing, offering competitive contracts and a season that doesn't clash with the WNBA, allowing players to earn extra income without breaking ties with the US League. Clark, with her global brand and millions of followers, doesn't need the WNBA to stay relevant. Her endorsement deals with brands like Nike and State Farm already outpace her league salary. And with each new contract, the question grows louder: why stay in a system that doesn't evolve with her? But the WNBA isn't just a job for Clark, it's a mission. Since she was a kid, she dreamed of playing in the league, of inspiring the next generation of players. At every youth clinic, every autograph session, she sees herself as an ambassador for the sport. But that mission comes at a cost. In 2025, Clark attended over 50 off-court events, from motivational talks to sponsor campaigns. Each was a chance to promote women's basketball, but also a burden. Her days off were rare, and when she had them, she often spent them on planes or in hotels. Her family, her anchor, started to notice the toll. In an interview, her mother said, "Caitlin loves basketball, but sometimes she misses being just Caitlin." That sentence sums up the dilemma. Being the WNBA's biggest star means sacrificing a piece of yourself, and Clark is starting to wonder if the sacrifice is worth it. In the locker room, things weren't easy either. The Indiana Fever, before Clark, were a team in rebuild mode, struggling to find their identity. With her arrival, everything changed. The team became a powerhouse, but also a media circus. Cameras followed Clark, not the team. Headlines focused on her points, not Boston's assists or Kelsey Mitchell's blocks. This created a tricky dynamic. Some teammates, according to rumors, felt their contributions were overshadowed. Aaliyah Boston, a star in her own right, said in an interview that she sometimes felt like the other player on her own team. Clark, aware of this, worked hard to keep the peace, organizing team dinners and being the first to celebrate her teammates' successes. But it wasn't enough. The attention she drew was like a hurricane, and not everyone knew how to handle it. And while she tried to hold the team together, external tensions kept growing. Let's talk about the fans again, because they're a huge part of this story. Clark's followers are passionate, but sometimes they cross the line. After the Kennedy Carter incident, social media became a war zone. Clark's fans flooded Carter's accounts with hate, some so extreme that Carter was harassed at her hotel. The situation spiraled, and Clark had to step in, asking her fans to focus on the game, not the drama. But the damage was done. Other players started speaking out about the impact of Clark's toxic fans, saying they were dividing the league. Breanna Stewart, in an interview, said basketball should unite, not divide, and that fans needed to focus on the game, not the drama. For Clark, this was a tough blow. She didn't ask to be the center of controversy, but her mere presence seemed to spark divisions, and in the locker room, these tensions didn't help. Some players felt they had to walk on eggshells, fearing any comment about Clark would turn into a headline. And then there's the Olympics issue, which still lingers. Cheryl Reeve's decision to leave Clark off the U.S. team in 2024 wasn't just a surprise, it was an earthquake. Clark, who had shattered NCAA records and was elevating the WNBA to new heights, was an obvious candidate. But Reeve chose more experienced players, saying the decision was about team chemistry. Fans didn't buy it. On social media, they accused Reeve of having a personal agenda, especially after she criticized the WNBA for focusing too much on Clark. Christine Brennan wrote a scathing article, saying Reeve handled the situation outrageously poorly. Meanwhile, figures like LeBron James defended Clark, saying she's the reason people are watching the WNBA now. Clark kept her cool, saying she respected the decision and would use the time off to improve. But privately, sources say the rejection hit her hard. It wasn't just about the games, it was about feeling valued in a league she was lifting. In 2025, things didn't calm down. Clark kept shining, winning the WNBA Player of the Year award at the ESPYs, beating out players like Ajaf Wilson and Breanna Stewart. But even that victory sparked controversy. Some questioned the voting process, which mixes fan votes with a panel of experts, saying Clark's popularity gave her an unfair edge. Wilson, in a subtle jab, said, "It's great to see fans engaged, but the game is bigger than one player." Clark, as always, avoided the drama, thanking her fans and saying the award was for the whole team. But behind her smile, the pressure kept building. Every achievement came with an asterisk, every win with a critique, and meanwhile, the injuries kept piling up. In a game against the Las Vegas Aces in July 2025, Clark twisted her ankle after an aggressive defensive play. Though she returned to the game, the incident was another reminder that her body was paying the price for being the constant target of opposing defenses. And this brings us back to the rumor of her leaving. While Clark isn't going anywhere, the speculations about Europe aren't just fantasies. European leagues are a real option for players like her. In Turkey, a star of her caliber could earn up to $1 million per season, with perks like luxury apartments and private flights. In Russia, clubs offer even more lucrative contracts, often exceeding $2 million. And in Spain, the quality of life is a draw, with vibrant cities and a culture that celebrates basketball without the US media frenzy. Clark, with her global brand, could dominate these leagues without sacrificing her legacy. And it's not just Europe. Australia is emerging as an attractive destination, with the WNBL offering competitive salaries and a schedule that lets players supplement their WNBA income. For Clark, these options aren't just about money, they're about freedom. Freedom to play without the weight of being a league's savior. Freedom to live without cameras at every turn. Freedom to build a career on her own terms. But the WNBA isn't just a job for Clark, it's a mission. Since she was a kid, she dreamed of playing in the league, of inspiring the next generation. At every youth clinic, every autograph session, she sees herself as an ambassador for the sport. But that mission comes at a cost. In 2025, Clark attended over 70 off-court events, from motivational talks to ad campaigns. Each was a chance to promote women's basketball, but also a burden. Her days off were rare, and when she had them, she often spent them on planes or in hotels. Her family, her rock, started to notice the toll. In an interview, her mother said, "Caitlin loves basketball, but sometimes she misses being just Caitlin." That sentence captures the dilemma. Being the WNBA's biggest star means giving up a piece of yourself, and Clark is starting to wonder if the sacrifice is worth it. So, what's next for Caitlin Clark? The rumors of her leaving have been debunked, but they reveal a deeper truth. The pressure of being the face of a league, the physical toll on the court, the tensions with veterans, the harassment from fans, and a salary system that doesn't reflect her value have put Clark at a crossroads. At 22, she's changed women's basketball forever, taking the WNBA to heights no one imagined, but she's also paid a personal price. The injuries, the constant scrutiny, the lack of control over her career, it all weighs on her. And while the world offers her more lucrative, less restrictive options, Clark must decide whether to stay and fight, to change the WNBA from within, or seek a path where she can be more than a player, where she can be herself. Her story doesn't end here. In fact, it's just beginning. The future of women's basketball might depend on what she decides. So what do you think? Should Clark stay and lead the revolution, or look for a fresh start elsewhere? Let us know in the comments, share this video, and subscribe for more stories you can't miss.